Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin. We have two great guests tonight, Kash Patel, who was Chief of Staff to the last Secretary of Defense, and Joe Concha, our media expert and friend. But before we get to those two great guests, this is a copy of the Communist Manifesto. This is a copy of the Declaration and the Constitution of the United States. This is beating this. The Democrat Party now is the enemy of the Declaration of Independence. They never reference it. Why? Because the Declaration recognizes a circle of liberty around every single individual that is not to be molested or penetrated by government. Is that what you see happening today? The Constitution puts great limits on the central government. It creates this central government. Is that what you're seeing today? It tries to protect the individual with the Bill of Rights. It tries to protect the states with enumerated powers that they grant to the national government. It's all turned upside down. That's because, ladies and gentlemen, this so-called progressive movement isn't progressive at all. It is an outgrowth of Marxism. Now, they assign themselves this nomenclature, progressive, which is why I wrote a book called American Marxism, to expose it all. And it does expose it all. I want to discuss a little piece of it with you before we get to our guests. You look at what's happening with Joe Biden and the Democrat Party today. And I say in American Marxism, the Democratic Party seeks to empower itself by breaching constitutional firewalls, skirting, if not eradicating, rules, traditions, and custom, adopting Marx's language of class warfare, and aligning with certain avowedly Marxist groups and ideological causes, among other things. Moreover, it is using the instrumentalities of the government for its political empowerment and purposes. The truth is that the interests of the Democratic Party come before those of the country. And the allegiance to the party is more important than fidelity to the country. It holds these characteristics in common with other autocratic and, quite frankly, communist parties throughout the world. Marxism is especially alluring to and actively supported by individuals who find Marxism's oppressor-oppressed class warfare construct appealing for several reasons. First, the fact is people want to belong to groups, including ethnic, racial, religious, and economic groups. People find identity, commonality, purpose, and even self-worth with such attachments. I believe this to be the most potent of Marxist paradigms, because he exploits this instinctively human and psychologically emotional appeal to create passionate and even fanatical adherents and revolutionaries. This is another characteristic of American Marxism and the Democratic Party. This brings me to the second point. Within the class warfare construct, Marxism's adherents and would-be followers are encouraged to view themselves and the groups with which they identify as the oppressed, that is, the victims. And their oppressors are found in the existing society, culture, and economic system from which the oppressed must liberate themselves and their fellow travelers, meaning those victims who identify with are also members of the same group. This is a primary reason why Marxism stresses classism over individualism. The individual is dehumanized and is nothing unless he identifies with a group, the oppressed and victimized group. And the individuals who make up opposing or nonconforming groups are collectively dehumanized, condemned, and loathed as the enemy. Again, this is a trait of American Marxism and the Democratic Party. Now, let's take a look briefly at the Communist Manifesto. They have, among other things, 10 points that Marx points out. He says they'll be different for every country. I want to touch some of them. This is from the Communist Manifesto and Marx. Number 1, abolition of property and land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. Now, that came pretty damn close, didn't it, with the CDC controlling landlords and tenants and the attack on private property. And by private property, he didn't just mean real estate. He meant private property, your income, your holdings, your personal property. If you heard Joe Biden last week, he was specifically attacking any successful people who are not part of the recipients and beneficiaries of entitlements in the welfare state, which he wants to massively expand. Number 2, a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. We have that, and if Joe Biden and the Democrats have their way, we're going to have it in spades. even greater than communist China. Number 3, abolition of all right of inheritance. What Joe Biden and the Democrats are planning to do is slam the door on inheritance, lower the cap so low that farmers and ranchers, small business people, just average people, are going to have great difficulty conferring onto their children and grandchildren their property that they've already paid taxes on. Number 5 under the Communist Manifesto, I'm skipping because they're not all relevant, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Sort of. We do have the Fed, but Joe Biden wants to massively increase the power of the Internal Revenue Service. He wants to increase the number of employees from 75,000 to 125,000. He wants to increase their budget from $12 billion to $20 billion. He wants you, every single one of you, to be subjected to a IRS review of your bank transactions, $600 or more, every single transaction. Now, if that isn't police state activity, I don't know what is. Number 6, centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Wow. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Well, transport in terms of attacking fossil fuels, mandating what kind of cars you can have and so forth, that's pretty close. But the centralization of means of communication. You look at big tech. Big tech is serving whom? Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. You look at big media, utterly corrupt. They're serving whom? Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. You look at the war on Fox and OAN and Newsmax and the war on conservative talk radio. You get the drift. Number 9, at least in this section, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. It started with Obama, but Biden's brought it back over to HUD. They want to devour the suburbs into the metropolitan areas. Clearly, that's under number 9. Number 10, free education for all children in public schools. Now, by that, Marx didn't mean K through 12. There was no such thing as K through 12. Free college, free community college, and so forth and so on. Look what's going on in our country today. Look at the border. We have millions of people coming in here illegally. If Joe Biden serves 4 years, 10 million people in this country illegally on his watch alone from all corners of the earth, and most of them are not vaccinated. Now the CDC puts out a warning about a possible measles epidemic. Joe Biden has done this intentionally. What else? Outlawing drones, the FAA preventing Fox from using drones to show a picture of what's going on the border. Censorship by the Biden administration. Election laws. They want to nationalize the election laws, turn the whole country into California, one-party state, where opposition parties, the Republican Party, never has a chance. In New York alone, it was reported that they want to gerrymander to eliminate half of the Republican seats. That's 3 of them. 3 of them. So even though they lose population, they want to eliminate 3 Republican states because by hook or crook, they want to make it so they fix the system so they can't lose. Censorship, big tech, academic freedom under attack, unless, of course, you're a leftist. A free press, do we really have a free press in this country? New York Times, Washington Post, major networks, MSNBC, CNN, these are propaganda organizations, an appendage of the Democrat Party in the big state. They're not a free press. Class warfare, redistribution of wealth based on race, based on anything the Democrats can use to exploit and turn against the American people. Balkanization, in so many ways, I don't know how to count. The rich versus the poor. This is how they hope to push through their massive spending bill that will bankrupt your children and generations yet born. Look at the critical race theory, the indoctrination of your children to be racists. Whether you're black, white, brown, red, yellow, you're supposed to hate a group, or you're supposed to feel superior to a group, or you're supposed to feel inferior to a group. Do we not have a national holiday honoring Martin Luther King? Well, this is destructive of what Martin Luther King taught. War on private property and capitalism. They call it climate change, Green New Deal. It is a movement that grew out of Europe in the 1970s. It is a degrowth movement. This is why they attack energy and fossil fuels. They want to expand the police state. Now, they hate the police. So by police state, I don't mean the police, the Internal Revenue Service, the massive bureaucracy, more regulations, more penalties, more fines, more mandates, more controls. Look at what they've done with this virus. Under Joe Biden's watch, according to the Free Beacon, an excellent website, 250,000 Americans have died under Joe Biden's watch. This is the man a year ago who accused President Trump of every single death that was occurring in this country. He's got 3 vaccines thanks to Trump. He's got therapeutics thanks to Trump and his administration, and still 250,000 people die. So what has he done? He blames the so-called unvaccinated. 76% of the people in this country have been vaccinated. That means 24% have not. What percentage of that 24% have natural immunity and the antibodies? The CDC doesn't say. Go on their website and try and find it. So it's really higher than 76% who are protected. And yet, they don't want to tell us so they can have these draconian measures. And because Biden has been a complete failure when it comes to this virus, despite what he's inherited. So he goes after DeSantis and Abbott. While the border's wide open, while people are coming in from Haiti and the third world who are not vaccinated, who have the measles, who have all kinds of other illnesses that we have defeated. This is Joe Biden's America, and it's not spelled A-M-E-R-I-C-A. It's spelled A-M-E-R-I-K-A, like the 1960s, right? Now, the Constitution and the Declaration recognize what? Individual liberty, private property rights. What else do they recognize? Limits on the government. They are set up to oppose the kind of tyranny we're experiencing in this country today, and it's only getting worse. And let me say this, you never Trumpers, and you rhinos out there, whether it's Chris Christie at the Reagan Library, whether it's George W. Bush on 9/11, a whole host of them, you're an embarrassment. Do you not see what's swirling around us in this country? Do you not see where we need as much help as possible to speak out so the rest of the American people understand what's going on? Aren't you tired of stabbing conservatives and others in the back? Isn't it time to grow up and mature and take on the threats that we face in this country? Well, I think it is.